Hey guys, Romanian Reaper here. So I've just got done watching Havoc on Netflix. This is of course the new film from Gareth Evans, director of The Raid, and I absolutely love both Raid movies. Some of the best modern action movies. So yeah, I was immediately hyped for this. Here we are though. 4 years later, this was filmed back in 2021. Then scheduling conflicts happened, and of course the strikes that meant pivotal reshoots couldn't happen, which meant release had to be delayed. But here we are, at long last, Gareth Evans' long awaited return to action movie filmmaking has finally reached our screens, even if it is indeed that most dreaded of things, a Netflix original. But does it deliver all the brutal brilliance that you'd expect from the director of The Raid? Let's find out. So the film follows Walker, a washed-up homicide cop who is running from a past full of mistakes. Walker finds himself drawn into an incredibly violent world when a drug deal gone wrong in Chinatown leads to Charlie Beaumont, son of local politician Lawrence Beaumont, becoming target number one for both the cops and the triads. And so Walker makes a promise to Beaumont that he will get Charlie out of there alive. A mission that is not quite as simple as initially seemed. So look, if you've seen The Raid, then yeah, you'll know this was definitely never going to be as good as that, but I had my fingers crossed that this would at very least deliver a reliably entertaining, action-packed experience, and yeah, if you're going in looking for the action, yeah, you'll be very satisfied, just as I was. This is a very, very entertaining film. Again, not to the level of The Raid, but on its own terms, it delivers just enough violence to satisfy. I mean, obviously, yes, the big shining light, the real selling point of the film is, well, the action scenes, and they deliver big time. There are some, long, bloody, brutal fights here that are just incredibly exciting to watch. Whether it be an opening chase between the cops and criminals that ultimately leads to the washing machine incident that you've seen in the trailer. Another standout moment is a brutal brawl in a nightclub. And of course, there's an absolutely fantastic set piece laid on in the film in a lakeside cabin. It is all glorious. It is brutal. It's bloody. It's messy. The camera is fast and frenetic. It is it's real thrilling stuff, and it's all sold by great loud shootouts and slick martial arts choreography. It is an absolute delight. And Gareth Evans really has not lost his touch on that front. Of course, the cinematography around the action scenes as well, these like real fluid movements, especially in the opening where we're elegantly following these cars. It is brilliant. In fact, there's plenty of non-action cinematography as well that just like the sheer aura is fantastic. This is obviously shot by Evans' go-to DP Matt Flannery, and yeah, it's a pairing that really excels. There's some great shots, whether it be a sort of shot rotating around Tom Hardy looking at a crime scene as he visualizes how the incident went down, or a shot of a sun rising over the top of some buildings, or even a tracking shot following along a train as we lead into a nightclub. It is all fantastically done. This is done with such love and expertise. It is just an absolute treat. Now, that is to say, though, that the story around these action scenes maybe isn't as strong. I think The Raid at least did a great job of papering over those cracks with by having just enough action, by being non-stop, just action-packed thrills. This is obviously not as action-packed. Again, the action that's here is big and it delivers big time, but it's not as much of a non-stop thrill ride as the Raid. You can definitely see the story issues really creep through here. Obviously, there's plenty of very familiar storytelling tropes of this type of movie. Whether it be the character of Walker, running from these past mistakes that he eventually has to face up to. You've got like the some bent cops, and messy drug deals with triads and stuff. All these tropes are there, and definitely executed about as you'd expect. Unfortunately, though, a lot of the characters are kind of thin, which means that it definitely holds the story back from being as outright engaging as it could be. Thankfully, we do have our sort of way in terms of our characters, and that is Walker. And I think Tom Hardy does a very, very good job here. Admittedly, it's probably one of his better attempts at an American accent, and he does a really good job. He really sells, these past sins very much haunting him, and his mission to very much, do the right thing. And he also has the physicality to really sell the action. He's a great lead and has a sort of very compelling, fairly simple but compelling arc that ensures that yes, we do at least have some level of a beating heart to this thing. And a lot of the supporting cast, again, as thin as the characters are, do a good job. Whether it be Jesse May Lee as Detective Ellie Chung, who reluctantly becomes partnered with Walker. I enjoyed their little dynamic, and she also gets some kick-ass moments of her own. We also have Timothy Oliphant as Vincent, a sort of long-time buddy at the police department of Walker's. He is, real smarmy screen presence with great facial acting. We also have Forrest Whitaker as Lawrence Beaumont, and he does a great job really selling this, corrupt politician who is, got himself in very, very deep. Everyone here does a very good job that ensures that yes, it's enough to overcome the fairly thin characterization. And there are some twists in there, some nice little surprises, building to that final act with, again, that really exciting, tense action set piece at the cabin, but also delivers some emotional payoffs that actually do kind of land. That ensures that yes, it does end on a good note, even if it is maybe a little anticlimactic. It still delivers some level of closure and does at least end the film on a good note, and ensures that I did find myself enjoying it. Overall, Havoc may not live up to the absolute brilliance of the Raid, but Gareth Evans is on fantastic form here, delivering brutal, exciting action, even if the storytelling does leave a little bit to be desired. Out of 10, Havoc gets a 7.5. So let me know down in the comments. Have you seen Havoc? What did you think of it? What did you make of it in comparison to the Raid? What was your favourite set piece? And are you looking forward to seeing what Gareth Evans does next? Let me know all that down in the comments. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you're new. And don't forget to turn on post notifications so you don't miss an upload.